Hello, hello. Testing one, two, three. Hey, everybody. I believe I am live now. I'm going to give it a second to make sure everything is really working and I'm being broadcast to you. Okay. Hello and happy Wednesday. I'm Darci. I'm the creator of the Vibrant Woman program, and I am here with you today for this new program that we're doing, live Q&A Wednesdays, because I get a lot of questions from people in my private coaching practice, and also sometimes through DMs or just people face to face in my life. They have questions that the answers I feel will be so beneficial to a wider audience. So this is my new outreach attempt to make sure that all of you out there are feeling confident in making the right choices for your health and your fitness. And I just want to double check this is all working. Okay, so welcome, welcome. I should be live now, and hopefully everybody can hear me. If you have comments or questions during the broadcast, please feel free to type them into the comments, and I'll do my best to keep up with that. If not, I do know a lot of folks who are going to wait and get the replay for this. Middle of the day may not work for everybody. It's the best time for me to come live and give you my full attention and get through these questions as clearly and concisely as I can. So I'm trying to bring that value into your life in as convenient a way for all of us as we can. All right, enough said. Happy Wednesday to you. I just actually want to start by saying, like a lot of you, I am heartsick today. It's not good news. I want to do this though. I want to invite you to pause with me for a minute right now and take a couple of deep breaths in through your nose, down into your belly, and put your attention there on the inside of your own body. When you exhale, I want to invite you to exhale all the way. We need to exhale all of our CO2. A lot of good reasons for doing that. You should feel your heart rate begin to settle a bit as you do that. And I just want to remind us that it's really important for our own health and well-being to be real and be present to all of our feelings. And it's a lot right now. I'm heartsick, and I know you're heartsick, and I think it's an important reminder to notice that the next right steps for empowered action will always come from that still space inside of us. And so it's really important that in order to connect to our own well-being, we need to do that for ourselves. But we need to do that for the changes we're wanting to make in the world as well, because that is the only place from which we can be sure that our actions are right actions, that they come from that wisdom, from that empowered place within us, right? And also just a reminder, because that feeling of powerlessness is not good for us for very long. I think it's an important first step that we have to be very clear about what we don't want. But we need to make sure that we're rooted in our own wisdom before we begin to move and take action toward what we do want. And then it is important to take that action, right? So we need to be transforming our world. We need to be doing it from a place of consciousness. All right, so I also want to say this. If you are wanting to learn more about the health of your human body and how, the role that your intuition and spirituality plays there, then you're absolutely in the right place. If you're tired of feeling burned out in your body and you feel like deep down there must be a better way, you deserve to feel better, you're wanting to feel better, you are absolutely right. And you're in the right place. So a quick background. I did not grow up with a solid foundation of health and well-being. I was raised on a modern, mainstream diet, full of packaged junk foods. And what's interesting is that I had to have a crisis in my own life to sort of change directions So, for a lot of you who already know me, you realize that that turning point for me was my daughter having a neonatal brain injury, a long list of disability labels assigned to her, and a terrible prognosis for her future. So, I dove headlong into this journey to rehabilitate her brain injury and help her outgrow all of that stuff. But funny enough, in that process, I burned myself out bad. I hit rock bottom hard. I was trying to do all the things as a single mom, and I ended up with severe adrenal fatigue, hypothyroid issues, food allergies, hormone imbalance, persistent weight gain that did not, all of the hours on the treadmill did not make any of that budge. So I had all of that. Um, and it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me because it lit a fire in me that made me want to heal and to heal naturally. It lit a fire in me to want to know more, to study, and to get on the path to pursuing the knowledge that I needed to do that. Right. So now, decades later, I'm a founding member of MAF Method, health coaches and practitioners. This is based on the paradigm shifting work of my coach and mentor, Dr. Phil Maffetone. It's all about finding and removing the root causes of disease, or avoiding disease altogether if we can. It is your birthright to thrive, okay? The brilliant cells of your body, they know how to do it. And more times than not, we just need to get out of their way. We need to return to the natural things that allow our bodies to thrive. That life force wants to come through. And I am a living testimony to that. I have lived it and walked it. I know the power of it. It's been my own experience. So now I'm here to share that with anybody else who wants to learn to thrive. And I know that's a lot of you. And I also know it's not all of you. There are some people who are just not ready to thrive, or they're not ready to accept responsibility for their thriving, or they are attached somehow to the labels that they've been assigned as part of their identity. Disease labels, we can get attached to that. The ego wants us to be significant in some way. For some of us, that's how we find our significance. Some of us are also just kind of caught in this level of consciousness. We're right on the verge of a paradigm shift here, and some of us are really caught in this idea of let me just say it like this. We still argue for our limitations. We have not yet accepted how powerful we really are and the power of changing our behaviors and making new choices and trusting that that takes us to a different place. So the place I'm inviting you to is thriving. I know that from my own journey. The path from burnout will lead you to wellness, and if you stay on it, it keeps going. It goes all the way to thriving. So if you're ready for that, I'm glad you're here. You're in the right place. I've got a couple of questions from folks that I'm going to go ahead and answer today. We'll just jump right in. And if there are any further questions during the broadcast, I'll check the comments and make sure to get to those too. I do give priority to the folks who submit their questions in advance via email, and I will put that in one of the comments in case you would like to submit a question for next time. Okay? Thank you for being here. Here we go. Number 1. Darci, I tried the 2-week carb test and I felt better than I have in forever. I lost some weight, I got my energy back, and I noticed a lot less chronic pain in my knee. I haven't been sticking to it perfectly though, but I'm doing much better than before about avoiding processed foods and sugar. But I've gained a lot of weight back, and I'm having some other issues now, like waking up in the middle of the night. What's going on? Okay, I love this question. First of all, for anybody who's not sure what the 2-week carb test is, this is a way to find out your body's own personal carbohydrate tolerance, because carbohydrate intolerance is at the root of almost all of our modern metabolic diseases. If you are in my Vibrant Woman community, you may remember last fall we did a free event and some hand holding as a group. We went through this 2-week carb trial. It's about removing processed foods, carb-dense foods for 2 weeks to reset your metabolism. I'm not going to go into all of the nuts and bolts of that right now on this Q&A. Feel free to, if you're in the group, to go to those videos that are there from last fall, October and November, rewatch those, and that will help you understand what we're talking about here. It will give you the details for how to do this carb test yourself too, if you're curious about how much better you might feel if you cut out the processed foods and sugars and carbohydrate dense stuff. Also, if you're not in that group yet, feel free to send me a DM. I'll get you in the group. I also post a lot of this on my YouTube channel. So the idea here is that for a lot of us, we have a sugar burning metabolism because we have been raised on highly processed carbohydrate dense foods. This is new in human evolution. This is a modern problem and causes metabolic disease not because there's something wrong with you, but because your body is trying its very best to adapt to something that it's not well suited for. Okay, so for the folks who try the 2-week carb test, this is a way to sort of reset your metabolism, to see how you feel with lower levels of insulin, with a steady flow of a little bit of glucose. We do need some glucose, but we don't need it in the amounts that we're getting it through our modern, specifically like the standard American diet. Okay, so that carb test is an important trial to see how your body responds. And then, like this person says here in this question, a lot of us will go back to old habits pretty soon afterwards. So here's the thing. If you do the 2-week carb test and you have drastic improvements, what that means is that you are carbohydrate tolerant, and we all are to a certain degree. It depends on where that tolerance, where that boundary is for us, okay? And your body is telling you through the symptoms that we feel. So what's happening, this person is having a return of their symptoms. So what that tells me is that actually they are beginning to eat above their carbohydrate tolerance again. And what I recommend for that is that you actually dial it back in. You either do the 2-week test again to sort of make sure that you're anchored in how your body feels when it's actually thriving. And I work with clients one-on-one to make sure that when we bring the carbs back, we do so in a certain order, and not everything's going to come back. And not everything comes back all at once. So we really need to be careful that we're reintroducing those carbohydrate foods in a certain order and within the right timing, so that we're not shocking our system and just going right back to the way we were before, which is sick and carbohydrate intolerant, with unsteady blood sugar, and a glucose problem and an insulin problem and all the things then that roll downhill from there. Okay, the other thing that can sometimes happen that I wanted to mention here, this is really similar to a situation that I had the first time I did my 2-week carb test. And I am very carbohydrate intolerant, but I was depending on it for my energy, and I also had a lot of anxiety at that time, so I didn't realize it, but I was anxiously eating, and I wanted a lot of crunchy things. I replaced a lot of my carb-dense foods with things like nuts, which are high fat and high protein, and they are definitely acceptable on a low-carb diet, but it turned out I was allergic to nuts. And so that it wasn't an acute allergy like anaphylactic shock or anything like that. It was more subtle. In fact, there's a very fine line between intolerance and allergy, and we don't need to split those hairs about the label right now. What we need to do is just remember that your body is trying to tell you what it needs, what it wants, and what it doesn't want, what does not work for it. So it does this through our symptoms, okay? And here's the symptoms. Gaining weight back. That tells me that there's some metabolic issues going on here. Inflammation can cause us to gain a lot of weight, and to do so quickly, and to make it hard to get rid of, even with extreme exercise, which I don't recommend either. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the other red flag here is this person says they're waking up in the middle of the night. Often that's a cortisol spike. And so I would actually just caution you to be careful that we're not replacing the carbohydrate dense foods that have sugar, and those cause stress for sure. One of the reasons we cut them out is to heal the body from stress and lower stress. But if we're replacing them with another kind of food that maybe we didn't eat much of before, like me with my nuts, or something that we're eating more of now because we're replacing those other foods in the diet, something there could also potentially be a problem. It's either an intolerance or an allergy, or we're overdoing it in some way that's causing some stress. And that stress shows up in the adrenal glands, and it can show up in the way the adrenal glands then play a part in our diurnal rhythms. That's with the cortisol spike waking us up in the middle of the night. Okay, that's some adrenal stress. Okay, they're not doing exactly what they should do when they should do it. It can also show up in hormone balance for women, and that definitely was true of me as well, because your adrenal glands play a part in this beautiful symphony of hormones that create a woman's cycle, monthly cycle. So sudden hormone imbalance is also sort of a red flag that we have some stress going on, and that we definitely need to look at that stress load. So what I would recommend then is, if you do the 2-week test, absolutely recommend doing the 2-week test. Find out what your carbohydrate tolerance is, but also keep a journal and make sure that as you do this, if you're beginning to shift to eating other foods that you either haven't eaten much of or maybe have never eaten at all, that you just be aware and continue to tune into your body and listen to what's happening. Because these are signs of stress, and this just means doesn't mean something's wrong, and it doesn't mean, oh, you should go back to eating the sugar and the carbs. What it means is we're just still in the beginning stages of doing this fine tuning and doing this listening in to the body and what it needs to heal and to thrive. And I'll be honest with you, some folks like to do this as kind of a reset, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. But what you need to realize is it's not, and this may not be a very popular answer, I understand, it's not a once and done. You're going to live in that human body for the rest of your life. It would behoove you to know what it needs to thrive, what foods work for it, what foods cause symptoms, what are those symptoms, how long do they last. Sometimes we're willing to put up with the symptoms because we don't want to make a change, or we are addicted to those things causing the symptoms. We could be addicted to certain foods. It gets us in sort of a spiral where the withdraw, think about it in terms of caffeine or sugar, that withdraw phase is a little bit uncomfortable, and so we tend to go back, and so we don't really get very far. We kind of keep getting stuck in this loop. I give it up for a bit and then it's uncomfortable, so we stay stuck right there in that problematic place instead of breaking through all the way to the other side, which is letting your body truly heal, and then discovering the foods that will help you to feel your absolute best. You should have vibrant energy. You should have deep sleep. You should have a nice, pain-free, mostly uneventful cycle. Okay, and if you have anything else going on, then it's definitely worth looking at the foods that you're consuming and how they're causing a problem. All right. Hope that helps on that on that question. And if anybody has follow-up, or if you're recognizing yourself in this question and you want to go deeper, then I'm going to show you how to find me, and we can set up a call and talk about if we should work together. Okay, question number 2. I'm wanting to get back in shape after being sedentary and depressed for the last few years. I hear that. Does that resonate with anybody? Yeah, you are not alone. My friends are telling me to start with weights, especially because at my age, weight-bearing activity is recommended. I've also heard you say, Darci, that exercise intensity can be a problem if you're working out too hard. So how hard is too hard, and how do I know? This is an awesome question, because yes, weight-bearing activity is absolutely important. It's important all across the lifespan, but definitely those needs increase as we age. Our protein needs go up. Our need to continue weight-bearing goes up, because we were meant to have a thriving, vibrant, flexible, strong body across the lifespan. Okay, and if we don't, it's because of choices that we're making. All right, so choosing to do weight-bearing activity is very important, so I love that. But yes, if you've been listening to me at all, you also will hear me sort of warn. There's this caveat where I talk about exercise intensity. I talk about not working out at too high of an intensity. I say that if you're at too high of a heart rate, you can actually be doing more harm than good. Those things are all true. So here's what I want to say about the weights. Absolutely, doing weights can be an important part of your health and fitness routine. Make sure that you are doing weights in compliance with the heart rate formula that I teach. And very briefly, I will give that to you here. In order to do this, and this would be your MAF target heart rate based on the work of my mentor, Dr. Phil Maffetone, we want to make sure that we are establishing and building a strong and vibrant aerobic foundation. That's the foundation of our fitness. That's the foundation. It has to come first. That's where the walking or jogging or biking, whatever, a lot of people want to call it cardio, but a lot of us are doing cardio at too high a heart rate. Okay. So we need at least 3 months of aerobic base building. And these are these easy sort of aerobic activities. Here's your heart rate formula: 180 minus your age. Okay. That's the foundation of it. If you've been sedentary for these last few years, if you're out of shape, if you have had illness, injury, or allergies, or if you are on medications, you need to subtract another 5 or another 10 from that to be safe. You want to err on the side of lower heart rate because when we get into those higher intensities in the heart rate, we're causing stress in the body. The whole point of this is to heal the body and lower stress. Okay? So build that aerobic base first, 3 months. That doesn't mean you do no weight bearing activity, but it means you stay away from all of I would say the tools. I would use your own body as resistance only during those first 3 months, and make sure you're never going over that target heart rate. Once you have established that great aerobic base and you've had no illnesses, injury, other signs of stress like waking up in the middle of the night, allergies, hormone imbalance, stuff like that, those other triggers we've talked about that show you that there's some stress going on. Once you've done that, then absolutely you should do the weights, but you should also do the weights and stay under that heart rate. Okay? So what that usually means is it's going to be heavier weight, fewer reps. That's what will help you then start to build those anaerobic muscles that will provide support for the aerobic system. Those are also the bigger, sexier muscles. Everybody wants those. But do yourself a favor and make sure that you're not causing more stress by building your aerobic system first. And you can absolutely do weights. Make sure you're using good form. So get a trainer, get a book. Make sure that you're using proper form so that we're not putting ourselves at risk of injury, which then sets us back, right? So I hope that answers that as well. Again, if you need follow-up or clarification, I'm going to show you how to find me. For those of you who are saying, okay, wait a minute, how do I build that aerobic base and what activities are really good for that? You know, I go into all of those details in my Vibrant Woman course, and I just want to drop that for a minute here because that will be coming up again near the end of this year. So you'll keep your ears open. You'll hear more about that coming up soon. For those of you who, in the meantime, need to know more, I absolutely recommend you come over and set up a discovery call or submit another question. But the point is, this is really highly individual. There is no one size fits all for the best aerobic workout for people. Primarily, I recommend that it be joyful, that it be fun. If you're doing it at the proper intensity, when you're finished, you will not feel exhausted. If you feel exhausted after your workout, it's probably not a beneficial workout for you, okay? Yeah, and I think that's all I'm going to say about that for now. But the idea is, for a lot of us, an easy walk will do it. Pay attention to your heart rate. If you don't already have a heart rate monitor and you're not familiar working with those, I highly recommend that. And again, if you want some more feedback on that, come and find me and let's talk about it. Okay. Last question I have for today is this one. Darci, do you have any ideas for sweet treats that don't have sugar in them? And are these okay for following low carb? Okay, so you've gotten the point here. I do talk about low carb. Now, how low carb? What's low carb for you may not be low carb for me. Everybody needs to eat underneath their own personal carbohydrate tolerance. The way to do that is the 2-week test. You can do that on your own through the resources I provide. You can come and sign up. I will hold your hand. I have a special container, a special coaching package where I support folks through this process, because some people do hit some bumps. But the point is, I don't throw around those words lightly, low carb. You need to eat underneath your own personal carbohydrate tolerance. So do I. Now, mine does not have any room for any refined sugar or processed foods in it. 0. Some people will tolerate a little of that from time to time. So the idea is, in the meantime, I recommend that we avoid sweet treats During the 2-week test, you will have to avoid anything with a sweet taste at all because there's something called the cephalic phase of digestion, which will cause your brain to have an insulin response anyway, even if there's zero carb count in that food. But the point is, of course, we all want a sweet taste from time to time. We want a treat. We want to be able to have celebrations and holidays and to have all of that without feeling like we're being deprived of something. So, this program that I teach and realigning your eating habits, this is not about deprivation at all. This is really about giving yourself a beautiful gift to feel comfortable in your body. And from there, I'll be real honest, my palate has changed. The things that used to taste sweet to me and taste good can be kind of horrifying, actually. I don't enjoy the taste of something that's straight sugar at all. And what I've come to understand is that's my body telling me, this is not good. Now, on the other hand, since my palate has changed, I find that I enjoy foods that I didn't used to really give any attention to. For example, carrots taste very sweet to me. Cucumbers can taste sweet. Raw cacao or cacao powder with just a little stevia or just a little bit of honey or just a little bit of mashed raw banana in there to sweeten it can actually have a really wonderful sweet flavor to my palate because it has taken time for me to readjust. So, long story made short is yes, give yourself a treat from time to time. Do your best to stay under your carb tolerance for that. And I do have ideas for sweet treats that don't have sugar in them. I have a lot of recipes that I've developed over the years. Things like blueberry muffins, banana muffins. We make chocolate fudgesicle popsicles. I just was drinking a hot chocolate this morning that doesn't have any refined sugar in it. So, yes, I share those recipes with folks on my email, my free newsletter subscriber list. So please come over and get on that if you're interested in getting recipes. There's not a recipe every week, but most weeks have something. I share those recipes in my Vibrant Woman community Facebook group. So if you're not there already, come get in there. And if you're going to look for sweet treats sort of outside, there are some great things you can do. So you can Google, for example, Google low carb blueberry muffins or Google low carb chocolate cake. Now, what you're going to find is that to be low carb, they're doing a few things. They're staying away from those highly refined grain flours. So they're not going to have whole wheat flour. Some of the gluten-free stuff is still very, very carb dense. They're using other carbohydrate dense flours like potato flour, what else? Rice flour. A lot of that stuff is still way too high in carbohydrates. The things I recommend would be something made with almond flour or coconut flour. Those are going to be higher fat, more nutrient dense, and less carb. You're going to have a whole new recipe though. They can't just be replaced for, the old cupcake recipe. And the other thing that they're going to do is they're going to require more eggs, maybe more oil, which is actually good because that's nutrient dense food. Provided you're using healthy oil, something like olive oil, avocado oil, butter even, or lard or ghee. Those things are healthy fats to help add the moisture back into the recipes that use coconut or almond flour. Here's the other thing they're going to have that are different. They're not going to have refined sugar. Now, sugar comes in a lot of disguises these days too. Okay. And that's because these companies want to market stuff. They're trying to get a piece of the market and they want to look different. Your pancreas doesn't know the difference between refined white sugar, brown sugar, coconut sugar, raw cane syrup. A lot of that stuff is going to have the same biological, physiological impact. Don't do it. What I want you to do instead is try to find something sweetened with all natural stevia, or you can use something like honey because that's nutrient dense food. You're going to need to use a little bit less because, again, a lot of honey is still going to stimulate an insulin response and get you all jacked up and get your blood sugar balance all messed up. But don't fall for all of the keto and paleo stuff. They've got that on boxes all through the grocery store now. When you read the labels, that's going to say stuff like xylitol, maybe not a good choice, erythritol. There are a bunch of like sugar alcohols that are hard to digest And again, they still have a neurological impact because that sweet taste will trigger an insulin response anyway. Plus, those are not natural. Some of the actually, these quote unquote health foods in the health food aisle, these boxes that say keto, they're going to have straight old school saccharin in them. Please do not eat that, okay? They're unfortunately marketing a lot of this to diabetics. It's very unfortunate. These are not healthy foods. What I want you to do instead is begin to transition yourself from some of those very processed things. I mean, who doesn't love a good chocolate cupcake? I understand how you're feeling, but what I really want you to do is to move yourself into the natural foods. Go through the produce department and see if you can find a new fruit or vegetable that you've never seen before. Bring it home and give it a try, okay? Let's move into eating foods that have actual nutrients in them. All of the phytonutrients that are in the minerals in the soil drawn up into those plants. We want to consume those things that are close to the earth. This is how we're going to recover our instincts. It's how we're going to heal our bodies. It's how we're going to restore our souls. Okay? And so I'm going to leave you with that for today. Thank you for being here. This is absolutely a gift and a treasure in my life to be able to share this time with you and share my knowledge and wisdom to hopefully help some of you find your way through struggling in your body to feeling much better. Get on the path to thriving. Okay, it's my heart's desire to see you well and to see you take your well self back out into the world to make the changes we need to make and lift up all of your beloveds. Okay? So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for being here. If you have any follow-up questions, come and find me. I will put my email and my website in the comments. And sending all of my love to you. Be well, beloveds, and eat real food.